Hey there, Joe DeSanto here. Thank you for checking out my YouTube videos. I'm going to do a video here talking about the difference between FSAs and HSAs. An FSA is a flexible spending account and an HSA is a health savings account. So they're similar, but there certainly are distinct and significant differences. So generally, HSA is a plan you create on your own accord. And an FSA is a plan that your employer provides for you. So they're both tax advantaged accounts, meaning you get a tax deduction by putting money into them, and then you can spend the money on qualifying expenses, much of which are health-related expenses like co-pays, medication costs, health expenses that are not covered by your insurance, and things like that. The FSA, I believe, has a little bit of a wider range of expenses that you can use it for, but predominantly I think people use them for healthcare costs. Like with the FSA, I think you can spend money on, like, I don't know, adult care for your parents, for example, which I don't think you can do in the HSA. The total amount of tax benefit you can get for both are similar. I think it's about $7,300 or so for 2024. But the FSA is generally a little bit more restrictive on the way you can use it versus the HSA. So with the FSA, you get it through your employer, you do the deduction through your paycheck, and essentially if you elect to have an FSA and put money in it from every paycheck, that amount of money is deducted from your gross pay before the tax happens. So you get your gross pay, you minus the FSA, and then you pay tax on the rest. And you might also have, your 401k come out similarly, or your health insurance or other pre-tax deductions from your paycheck. And that money then goes into accounts that your employer has set up and essentially manages. When it comes to the FSA and using the money, you basically have to go to your employer to get the money from them. So I believe that you will spend the money yourself, and then you will go submit a receipt and proof of purchase, and then the employer will get the funds out of the account and give it to you. The FSA, sticks with the employer. I don't know if there's a rollover option. So if you leave that employer, can you roll over your FSA funds into another, like an HSA or something that you own and is in your control? I'm not sure. I probably should have checked on that before the video. But anyway, there is just a lot of interaction you're going to have to do to get the funds out of the FSA and go to your employer for that. The HSA, on the other hand, is something you set up, and you can do it at Fidelity or Bank of America. All the big banks will do it. And you deposit the money in there yourself. You get a checkbook and or a debit card. And when you go pay for things that are qualifying expenses for the HSA, you use the debit card and you spend from that pool of money. And then when you go to do your tax return for that year, you make it known on the tax return that you put X number of dollars in your HSA, and you get that as a tax deduction. Here's the thing that's really important with the HSA. In order to have an HSA, you have to have an HSA qualifying plan, and not any given health insurance plan that you're going to go look at online qualifies for that. It's usually a higher deductible plan, but it also has to be noted or marked on the plan that it's HSA compatible. So it's really important that when you're shopping for a plan or you're switching a plan to incorporate an HSA, you know that the plan you're going to be on qualifies you to have an HSA. The other cool thing about the HSA is that you can actually reimburse yourself for expenses that you made on your credit card or whatever that you forgot to do with the HSA card. So you got to have really good records when you do this. I mean, you would only probably have to prove the reimbursements in an audit, but if you were to get audited, you want to have very clear records and receipts of like, yes, I reimbursed myself this amount, but it was for these exact charges that are qualifying charges, and I just didn't have the opportunity to use the HSA card at the time. But you can only reimburse yourself for stuff that you did within the year, that you had funded the HSA. So if you had like funded the HSA, actually I don't, that might not be true. You might actually just not be able to you might not be able to reimburse yourself for charges prior to having the HSA, but once the funds are in there, you could reimburse yourself along the way. Obviously, I'm a little gray on that detail, so double check that. But in general, and also the FSA funds, I don't think they can collect any interest, and those funds aren't invested in anything. The HSA account that you would get, say, at Fidelity is actually like a brokerage account, and you can invest the money in the HSA, in stocks and bonds and so on, if you want it to grow. And I believe that growth is tax-free, though, again, probably have to verify that one. So definitely some important distinctions between the HSA and FSA. The HSA, I guess, generally, in my opinion, is more flexible. It's yours and so on. You could investigate that if you were to have an HSA qualifying plan through your employer, you might be able to just go get an HSA yourself, as long as the plan you have through your employer is a qualifying low deductible plan. So look at that as an option. It's kind of like if you have an employer that has a 401k, but you opt to just go get an IRA yourself. It's a similar scenario to that. So obviously investigate both. I have an HSA. I think it's a great vehicle and a really good tax deduction and so on. So I would recommend it, and I have recommended it to people. Thanks so much.